This is Hey Heart 143 with Natalie Tavidian. 143 means I love you. Together, we're learning to love ourselves and stay in love no matter what life throws at us. We are constantly evolving, changing, growing emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And we have to remember to check in with our own heart as we're propelled forward. When you love your own heart, you heal better, you do better, and you live a more fulfilled life. For as long as I can remember, I have or had never called out my own heart and said, "Hey heart, how do you feel?" Hey Heart 143 was born. Hey guys, I'm Natalie Tavidian. Welcome to Hey Heart 143. In this Straight Talk episode, I'm going to introduce you to myself, Natalie Tavidian, and tell you a little bit about how this podcast was born. First off, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for tuning in. You can find me everywhere at Natalie Tavidian or at Hey Heart 143. So like you heard me just say, I'd never actually stopped and asked myself, "Hey girl, how are you feeling? How is your heart doing?" Because I was always the type of person who never paid attention to my own feelings. And now, with everything I've been through in life, the age that I'm at, everything I've experienced, I'm finally stopping and saying, "Hey heart, how do you feel about this?" And that feeling is something I always ignored because I was always trying to get to that next chapter in life, that next big thing. Okay, I got into high school. How do I become ASP president? How do I become cheer captain? How do I do this? How do I get to the top? How do I climb the ladder? Okay, let's go climb the ladder next. And then I get into college. How do I do a double major in 4 years? Come on, I got to get out of here. I want 2 degrees. I want to be out of here in 4 years. I need to do an internship while I'm doing this, do a job while I'm doing this next. Okay, graduate college. I want to be a news anchor and reporter. How do I do that? Where do I start? Where do I go? Who do I hire to make my resume tape? Because the UC system didn't have a broadcast major, so I didn't graduate college with a broadcast tape. So now I have to go above and beyond and do this. Okay, great. I got my first job. It's in a small town. It's in Nebraska. I'm an LA girl. That's fine. I'm doing it. I'm taking this job. What, tornadoes? Yeah, sure. I know a thing or two about tornadoes. Football? I could shoot football. I could write about football. But now how do I get out of here? How do I go to that next big market? How do I take that next big step? Cool, I get a job in California. I'm living the dream. I wanted to live near mountains and ocean, and I got a job in San Luis Obispo County, covering Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo County. Fell in love with the Central Coast, and then made the scary decision to quit the news business, to get out of this job I was so passionate about, so in love with, because I got to a place where I said, no more growth. And then there was no what's next. And I put all my heart into another person. And it became all about that other person. When I said I'd shoot a podcast and I'd be really real and really authentic, I had no idea that I'd cry in my first episode because this is not about anything negative, but here's the real thing. I want this podcast to be uplifting. I want it to be very real. I want it to be very authentic. But to be real and to be authentic, you're going to have to hear about some of the mud that I've been through. And I hope it inspires you. I hope it inspires you to put one foot in front of the other and be the best version of yourself as you can be. You are all joining me on my healing journey right now. I call it a journey because we're all healing. We're constantly healing. Some are further ahead than others, and I'm sure some days you feel further ahead than others. And if you're listening to this, I'm going to assume that you're someone who wants to live a more joyous life. Things got real quick. This is scary for me because I'm so excited to launch this and do something so new and so different from everything else I've been doing in my life. And I want it to be very uplifting and very positive, but also real. So there won't be complaining, there won't be blaming, there won't be playing victim. Life isn't what happens to us. It's really about how we react to it. Don't get into that victim mentality. That is definitely not where I'm at right now. But I want to share inspiring stories. And as you continue to listen, you'll hear my story unfold throughout the episodes. And I want to talk about my healer training. I'm going through a healer training right now, which is teaching me to be a healer, but also teaching me to heal myself. And it's a really, really beautiful journey. And I also want to mention, don't get attached to an outcome. Please, I'm not getting attached to the theme. I'm not getting attached to my opening song, although I love it all and I love everything about self-love. But don't get attached to an outcome because like life, like all of us, the podcast will evolve too. It's going to evolve through time. So thank you for being here. I have so much gratitude for everybody listening and supporting me right now. I'm going to begin with telling you a little bit about my weekend because I showed myself a lot of love this weekend, and head into telling you a bit about my healer training and how that's helping me find ways to love my own heart. It's only been about a month now that I've been going through this training. I'm going to do it for, it's almost a year, a little under a year round program at my yoga studio, the Awareness Center in Pasadena. And it was during one of my meditations that I just sort of started picturing myself doing this podcast. And the words, "Hey Heart 143, just popped in my head. And I've been talking about this for such a long time because I come from this news background and I really do enjoy speaking and telling stories. But here's the thing with being a journalist. When you spend so much of your life telling stories about other people, I think my career actually had a lot to do with this. I didn't know how to speak about myself, and I didn't know how to feel my own feelings because you're dealing with so many emotions every day. You're telling stories that get on the news, and it's always emotional. Some days were good stories, and I loved doing those positive stories, but the reality is that most of the time it was a sad story. Anything from an accident or a fire or a flood or capturing the human element in a news story. And that really gets to you. And I loved my career. So if anyone out there is a multimedia journalist or a reporter, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you and I'd love to connect because I have so much respect for the reporting world. But I made the conscious decision to step away from it, and that was scary. To want to do a job so bad from the age of 12 years old and to actually do it and to feel that joy when you're on the air every day. It's such a beautiful thing to say, I lived my childhood dream. So I stepped away from that. And I'm not going to get into my breakup right now because I'm not ready for that yet. More than a breakup, actually. Breakup isn't the word. But I'll get into that. So I started this healer training. And it's so beautiful because we're going through all of the elements. So air is right now, and then we get into fire. So right now, paying attention to the air elements, we're doing lots of breathing exercises, and in no way am I a healing expert, but I want to share my healing experience with you and the studies that I'm doing on the history of healing. I'll get around to that later on. But it was in one of our breathing exercises that this podcast came to me, and here we are today. So, air element. I guess this just goes hand in hand with my healer training and my solo vacation this past weekend. I took myself up to the Central Coast. I'm back in LA right now, by the way. So if you don't know me, I'm back in the LA area. But one of my favorite places on earth is California's Central Coast. That includes Pismo Beach and Shell Beach, Arroyo Grande, Grover Beach, Oceano, that whole area. It's all north of Santa Barbara. Shout out to Santa Barbara too. And it's about an hour and a half north of Santa Barbara, if you're familiar with that area. And it is where I find my solitude. Something about the energy of that area is just so amazing. The first time I drove through there, I said, this is going to be my new home. So after Friday, I drove myself up and I visited who I call my Central Coast family. It's my Central Coast mom, my Central Coast dad, my Central Coast brothers and sisters. And it was a beautiful start to my Friday evening by the time I got there. And it was so therapeutic to just be in the car for about 3 to 4 hours. There's so much traffic on a Friday. If you live in LA, you know how horrible the traffic is. And Friday is not the time to leave. But it was the most therapeutic 4 hours of my life because I was feeling the wind. I had my windows down. I was singing along to so many different songs, and I was crying at one point and laughing at one point and crying again and laughing again and singing on top of my lungs again. So if you ever see me in my car, just honk if you see me singing. It's very therapeutic. And so that was Friday. Saturday morning, I wake up and I take myself out on a kayak. I really wanted to paddleboard at first, but I got to Port San Luis, and there's a rental place over there where I usually rent paddle boards. But it was really windy, and I try not to get attached to outcomes, so I was expecting a no. They said no paddle boarding today. Even the experts couldn't do it. So I said, I'm pretty decent at kayaking, though, so can I get a kayak? So I got myself a kayak. And here I am trying to calm my mind down, trying to sit there on the kayak and slowly go to the end where I've always wanted to go. I've always wanted to see the lighthouse, and I lived there for about 3 years, and I never got to the lighthouse. I was always scared to go that far. But here I am. 1, I'm by myself. 2, it's a windy day. I don't think it was the best idea to do it, but there's something about conquering your fears that it just feels so amazing. So I told myself I'm going to do it. I'm on my kayak. I'm paddling. Is that what you call it? I don't know what you call it. Kayaking, paddling, and trying to get to the end. And if you stop for 1 second, the wind is just going to take you. And so I stopped just for a little bit. The wind calmed down for a little bit, and I stopped and I took a deep breath in, and it was just such an incredible feeling to just be back in my element, to feel that breeze. And then the wind was like, nope, I'm not working with you today. I'm working against you. But here's what I realized is that the wind is not working against me. The wind is strengthening me, and that's what the universe does to us. It's not working against us. It is never working against us. It's always working with us. Even the crappiest of situations, it's working with us. It is strengthening us. And that's what's happening to my heart right now. It's growing. It's getting bigger. It's getting stronger. So that's what happened to my arms on Saturday. Getting stronger. And I got to the end. I finally made it. It was a struggle. I couldn't stop kayaking for a moment. And these 2 guys spearfishing, or teaching one another to spearfish. We're going to help pull my kayak in, but I got it. And it's just so cool to meet people when you're on your own, when you're traveling on your own, and to connect with people. Because then I took my bare feet and I started climbing up the stairs. again, feeling that breeze, went up the stairs and met this local over there who I started chatting with and asked him how to get to the lighthouse. And it ended up that he's actually from my hometown. He went to a high school not too far from the high school I attended. So it was pretty sweet to connect with somebody that knew where I was coming from. And we talked about my local community and what brought me up there. And then he showed me how to get to the lighthouse. And it was so beautiful. This is in San Luis Obispo, Port San Luis. And I climbed up to the lighthouse and just took it all in, took some photos. Yeah, I had my phone on me. I wasn't using it though. I had it for photos. I like capturing photos. So I make my way back and I was like, okay, cool. So the wind is going to be working with me now, right? Because it was working against me earlier. Nope. It was working totally against me and it was even more brutal. But here I am going, okay, it's okay. It's okay, wind. Like, I got this, Nat. The wind is just making me stronger. I could totally do this. I was basically laughing about it at this point, and that's just such a wonderful mind place to be in because I could have easily turned this into a horrible situation and said, oh my goodness, I'm drenched from head to toe. I'm really struggling here. I'm out of breath. I'm breaking a sweat, and it was a cold day. I had a jacket on. I can't stop and take my jacket off. And the guy who owns the kayak rental, I think he saw me being a little too far out, and he came and told me what to do and how to get a little closer to the edges, and then I dropped off the kayak. It was a wonderful experience. I was very grateful to have had that experience. That's life, right? Universe either makes you stronger or works with you. So the wind was making me stronger that day. Thanks, guys, for spending time with me today. That is all I have for my first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you pass it along to a friend. And next week, I'm going to have a guest. And she is a national fitness competitor. And she's going to talk to us about finding power in pain. So I look forward to sharing that with you. If you feel called to do it, please head over to iTunes, find Hey Heart 143, and give me a rating so more people can find this episode and more people could find the podcast and listen to all the inspiring stories that I have in store. 143 means I love you. Thank you for tuning in.